Hey everyone, this is DayTraderRockStar, and I'm here with you for a little educational video tonight. We are going to go over the ES here, and this is basically, we're going to actually go back, we're going to take a look at the overall markets at this point, going into, this is May 18th, so midweek in May 18th. And we did see the market start to recognize, that channel, pushed up off of this channel line, or really pushed up to the top of the channel line and rolled over, and these are just the main, if you had a group of indicators, these would be the main indicators you're looking for, the stochastics, and I consider trend lines, I put them under a bunch. I have just indicators that go all the way from Fibonacci's and Bollinger Bands to RSI, etc., to moving averages. But I also consider trends, an indicator, because that's an indicator of direction. There's support and resistance indicators. So I take the most logical and the most scientific ones, and they tend to be the trends and the recognizable patterns, when you're able to recognize a pattern and follow that pattern. And when you have the combination of these indicators all lining up, say the oversold stochastics and the trend line and a pullback, where the stochastics become my number one indicator, because we know at least measures the momentum of the selling and the momentum of the buying. So as we get down into an oversold level, we tend to dry up on the momentum. The momentum dries up, and the buying pressure starts to come in. That's usually the way of the way the stochastics read the market. And on the occasional reversal is really when things get flat, and you really can't get a trigger from that. So we're at that level where we pull back down. We could have easily went flattened out here and showed some more weakness. But that was really, it's very hard to see that, because on the 60-minute chart, we saw this lower trend line, and you see the numbers on my charts, 1, 2, and 3. And this is very important, because, where most people are trying to recognize a pattern, the truth is you only really need 3 points to a chart to recognize a pattern. So once you start to see 3 pivot areas, and a pivot area, again, I go over this a lot with my videos, and I go over it each day on the radio, DayTradingRadio.com, but each pivot area where we go from a move up to down or down to up counts as your your pivot. So we're looking for that first 3 pivots, and 1, 2, 3. And once we have those first 3 pivots, you have 2 points on one of the sides. So at that 2 points, and the rule of whatever you want to use, geometry, 2 points. You need 2 points to make a line, and you connect those 2 points, extend it out, and you basically have a line to work off of. And having that second point where we talk about a channel, and a channel is basically, I don't even know. I mean, I'm not a mathematician. I don't know the correct definition offhand, but basically you're going to have channels going to be equal distance between the highs and the lows as it continues to gyrate, in a directional trade, being up, down, or sideways. But we continue to, kind of move up to a certain level, pull back, and that distance kind of runs out, and you could actually kind of calculate the next part. So once you start to establish the top, and you just put a parallel line, you would follow that trend line right out, and you'd wait for that market to come down to that level. And that's exactly what that happened recently on the 60-minute chart. So even though there was a lot of negativity in the market, we saw the market come down here, and we already had this mapped out as a number 4, because as this comes close, we know that we're going to count this as a number 4. We know the next touch is going to be a number 4. And from that point on, look at that rally that we had. Even expected to pull back a little bit further, but it continued to move up. And I mean, it was a tremendous area. So we are able to really focus good on the ES, and the ES is setting up. And now we're getting overbought on the 60-minute chart. And again, the meat of the move really shows the directional thing. At this point, even though we're getting oversold, there still could be some more upside. This is when you get to the extremes, that's when the reversals can happen. So if this downward channel wants to break out, which I do believe it will, we won't get a clear-cut indication on this unless we have a better divergence up to, we get a pullback from there, and then we could get everything setting up properly. But if this thing really wants to go, it's going to go. Now, what do you do intraday with this? So we're able to break it down on the daily. We see the daily chart. We see the 60-minute chart. Very simple. This is an upward channel, but the stochastics are oversold. The 60-minute chart is a downward channel, right? Oversold stochastics at that point, trend line. So you have kind of, patterns within patterns at this point. And if we zoom out here on the 60-minute chart, you could pretty much go back to the low here, draw a trend line, and see this trend line pretty much hold up. Even though we dropped under here on the 60-minute chart, we regained it real fast. And that was the key right there. That was the shake and bake, because the market's always adjusting. So you would think that this is so obvious that that everyone would take these trades, and hence it wouldn't work anymore. And sometimes you see that, and that's why sometimes you see these dropouts or these flushes, and it takes out a lot of people who are really dependent on these lines with a fast reversal. So the market's always evolving, just like we're evolving. The black boxes are evolving, the gray boxes, all the boxes are evolving, and the market's going to react off of those. We're programming the market to react the way we want. So if we can figure out the patterns before the average Yabudis out there tries to figure out what the hell he's doing with his money, we're ahead of the game. We know we also have to develop the discipline and the patience, and map out the trade. That was so that was it. So what do we do intraday? So that's all good and dandy, but now what if we want to trade the stock intraday? Well, basically you take the same basic indicators and you act on them. All right, the sim indicator. What's great about the 5 indicator setup? It works great on the daily. It works great on the 5-minute, 60-minute, and even down to the 1-minute chart. Now, again, just to say, the stochastics, full stochastics, are going to be much faster on the chart, on the 1-minute chart versus any of the other charts. It just so it doesn't come into play as much, but it's still worth looking at, because if you this is actually my live charts that we look at each day live on the radio, and and these markings that you see on here are the ones I'm pointing out. So I'm actually going over the market tick for tick as it's happening, describing the setups and showing where the support and resistance are, why we pull back at certain levels, and where our trades are. So we do this. So this is a good example on, all of a sudden I recognize that we have a downward channel. So we know that the downward channel is probably because of why? Because we have 1, 2, 3 points. That's 3 pivot areas. So now we're able to really adopt this line here, this channel line. And from this point on, we started to see we had 1, 2, 3 points down here. That was a good level, and this level, the 13, 16 level, showed up on the 60-minute chart, showed up on a lot of different charts. That's why it was such a good level to get in here. And from this point on, we bopped up. And right at this level also, what we did see is a classic example of how to read an inverted head and shoulders pattern. You see a left shoulder here. You see the dip. You see the right shoulder. Now, what was the key that we were going to break out? And this was also something I covered live in the markets also. It was basically watching the stochastics get oversold. And then we pushed up here and we got oversold again, but the stock price held there. And once we knew that the stochastics oversold and there was no lower low on the stochastics, that's a divergence that usually breaks to the upside. And that broke right up to the upside, touched the 200 period moving average the first time, came back down. At that point, we were able to really develop 2 lines. We have this change of trend here. So if we actually looked at and put a line in here, this would be a change of trend. It's actually should move down here a little. So it's really, you can put trend lines in here. They could go down to microseconds, but this was a nice inverted head and shoulders pattern right here. And this was the breakout. Now this is a recognizable pattern. And from this point on, we knew because of a downward channel it was probably going to break to the upside. Now it starts a whole new thing. Once you have a break of a trend line, you start to develop a new channel. And that channel could be easily marked out, just waiting for those things. You could see it developing. You see a little pivot area here. You see a pivot area here. Market pulled back. You already see a pivot area here and a pivot area here. So as you see this develop, you're like, all right, at that point right here, it might be this far. I mean, maybe you don't believe in it, but believe it or not, this was 1, this was 2, and this was 3. So from these 3 points, you could have drawn that straight line right down the pipe here. Draw this parallel line, right, which is already up here. That parallel line. All of a sudden, from just those 3 points right there, you're starting to notice an upward channel. So right from those 3 points, you could start to trade the ES on a 1-minute chart off of that level. Now, let me go back on here. This was that big channel that we just broke out of, and this is a new channel, and we just recognized a new channel developing by these 3 pivots: 1 pivot, 2 pivot, 3 pivot. And at that point, this area, because it's a parallel line versus these 2 points, at this point there is a you're watching stochastics getting oversold here. So that combination of the 1-2 indicator looking very good. Understanding that we're in a downward channel also looks good. So we did break out, and we got that breakout. Now we've really established this channel. So at this point, you're looking, it's very easy to see. I'm not even scrolling on. You can see that trend line tells us, possible short up into that level. I would say possible buy down if it pulled back to this trend line again. All right. And I'm just going back, and you can see it pulled right back to the trend line. And look what happened here. The stochastics became oversold again. So just a combination of that means that the market is trending. It's a friendly trend, basically. It's giving you the right signals. You just need to act on them. The hardest part of trading is having confidence in your ability to take the trade and be in it and know that you're right. You're never going to be 100% sure if you're right or wrong. But what you want to do is take the emotion out of the trade. You want the best probability. You want everything lining up the positive. You want to take that trending trade on a pullback. You want to be able to recognize the reversals. You want to have everything. You want to buy in a weakness, sell into strength. You want everything going into your favor. Everything going in your favor. And the way to do that is to constantly recognize the spots before you're going to get in. Do the homework, Do the homework before, most other people are doing it. Put that extra effort in here. Everything you do, you need to put that extra effort in to be successful. And then you can see actually, kind of even dipped out of this level. But what is that? Is that the market's catching up with algorithms? Is it now, they know that there's a lot of stops at this point, and the market triggers that and just takes out the stops and runs? These are the little landmines in the market that you have to pay attention to. Either way, you can follow this trend right up. And it continued to go up to the close, and we left off at this point going into tomorrow. And it seems to be still rising. Let's see where we are. 18. This is live right now. I think it's live. Wait a second. That's not live. My bad. That was today's. And again, this is actually out of today's too. And you can see, same thing. Follow these upward trend lines. We notice the breakdowns. Once we start establishing other channels, we know which direction the market is going to go. Upward trend lines break down, downward trend lines break up. So once you have that, you have your directional trade on, and you can feel, you can feel the market out a little bit better. And then it closed, and now we're closing up near the highs, and we're continuing to move. So overall, markets look good, and that's what we're doing. We're taking the indicators, we're putting them together. We're concentrating on the 1-minute chart. We're having our trade planned out for us. We're waiting for each additional tag of this trend line with the oversold stochastics. That combination of the trend line stochastics, it's going to get you in the right place, because you can measure that out. And it doesn't mean you need to be getting in the chop, but you're taking a higher probability setup. That's what you're doing. You're going and you're waiting till the cards are in your favor. You're waiting for the whatever an analogy you want. You're just waiting for it. All right. So that's it. Hopefully you get to join us each day. I do a broadcast on DayTraderRockStar.com, and that starts out about 8 o'clock in the morning, and it goes all the way till 4 o'clock. But it's on all the time. You can tune in. You could come in here to shows, after-hour shows. We got trader spotlights. We got comedy. We got all kinds of stuff, all focused to the trader and stuff, and great rock and roll. And that's about it, and a lot of education. So I hope you get to just stop by, check it out. That's DayTradingRadio.com. I'm your host, DayTraderRockStar. Hope you enjoy this little education on the ES Mini. And that's exactly what you'll see each and every day.